Hey, I'm Ishaan, the founder of Çõᴇᴜᴜᴜ. We are a B2B SaaS marketing agency, meaning we specialize in working with B2B SaaS companies. There are two things that we do, ads and SEO. In this video, we're going to talk about the first one, ads, aka performance marketing. Now, over the years of working with 30 plus companies, we have developed different frameworks of how things, what consistently drives results. Right, and in this video we're going to talk about what are the 5 things that we usually do for most companies, exactly what channels are useful for them, what tactics, how do you do messaging, when should you pick which one of these to include in your strategy for the next year, right, or for the next quarter. So let me just go through and introduce what the 5 things are, and then we'll go into each one of them one by one, right? So the first one, brand awareness generation. It's, as the name suggests, you just generate brand awareness. Now here the biggest misconception is, when you're doing this, you don't need people to know what you do. You just need people to know that, hey, this is a company that is in this space. For example, with Çõᴇᴜᴜᴜ, it would be that, hey, this is a company in the marketing space and they do good work. I don't know exactly whether, hey, what exactly the services that we provide are, right? Or they may know my name or my company's name, but that's it. But you are building trust, and that is the most important part, right? The second thing is demand generation. Now with demand generation, what you're doing is, again, instead of talking about your company, you're talking about the problem in most of the 90% of the cases. Now the problem that you stand for, that you solve, right? Now there could be multiple things you're talking about. One is that, hey, this is a problem worth solving, when people aren't sure that, hey, should we invest in this or that? Or, hey, this is a problem that is urgent, that you need to solve now, and or if you do solve it now, you might get this ROI. Or even in a lot of cases that, hey, this is a problem that can be solved. Because most of the things that B2B SaaS companies solved, or a lot of the things that you solve, are taken for granted, that, hey, this is how things are, and this is how the industry just functions. This is the normal, right? For example, in our case, it could be that, hey, we run ads and we are only doing, let's say, a couple of channels, and that's what performance marketing is, right? It's not good. Yes, we wanted to perform better, but we don't know whether it can be done or not. So if you just talk about the problem and the fact that it can be done in a better way, that is demand gen. And this video, by the way, is part of our demand gen nurture sequence. So then there's demand capture. Now with demand capture, what you're doing is, you are just, as the name suggests, capturing existing demand that's present in the market, which basically means that, let's say someone is searching for HR management software, in our case a B2B SaaS marketing agency. All we do is we show up there. We don't be very creative, we don't have to generate demand. We just have to say that, hey, what you are searching for is what we are, and here is why we are different, and this is why you should go with us, right? So the messaging part here is less about creativity and more about showing differentiation in again, most cases. The fourth and fifth ones are lead nurture and upsell. Lead nurture, let's say if you're doing a demo flow, people are already have scheduled demo with you, or they've signed up for something really bottom of the funnel. Now you have to slowly nurture them and get them to the sales conversion, or you just are increasing the sales conversion rates, right? The win rates, you're trying to increase them, influence them to actually go ahead with you and see your name again and again during the decision making stage. That is lead nurture. And finally, we have upsell. Upsell is basically, this is usually used with PLG companies where you have a product, where you have a free trial. Now in that case, with upsell, what you're doing is, hey, companies, hey customer, you're already using this. By the way, this other customer used this in conjunction with this and was able to see so much more results. Why don't we speak with you and show you what this looks like? Those are the kind of ads that you can run. Obviously you can use, for all of these things, you can use performance marketing. That's one channel, but you can also use a lot of the other things to then make all of them work together, right? So now let me just quickly show what channels usually work for each one of them. Great. So for brand awareness generation, literally anything that you do helps with brand awareness generation, right? Uh, you in anything you do in marketing, they've heard your name, you're building trust, so you're generating brand awareness. There's some methods that are better, some methods that are less efficient, but then literally anything does brand awareness. The second thing is demand gen, right? Usually you've seen it's on the screen, you can just pause and see which channels usually work. But then for demand gen, the things that most people or we usually start with is LinkedIn. Even though it's said that, hey, LinkedIn is expensive and this and that, the thing is that LinkedIn has really good targeting options out of the box. To utilize something like Meta or Google Display, you would have to purchase data, or you would have to purchase data vendors, which then end up being pretty expensive, right? Another thing that you can use is G2, Capterra. There's a lot of other channels you can use, and there's also specific display networks that you can use, which are apart from these channels that are listed here, right? And these networks also, you can target specific people in very specific companies using this. Now, same with demand capture. It's usually search engines and people searching for a solution right now. Lead nurture and upsell are very similar to demand gen, the channels that you use for them, right? And again, the caveat that we have mentioned here as well, that demand gen is probably the most diverse out of these five. So even though I've bucketed everything together, demand gen can be a little less targeted, which is still like that, hey, you're targeting specific people in, let's say, 10,000 companies, right? And in that case, you are generating demand. Or you could say that, hey, these are 100 companies that our sales reps are following. We also want to follow through, let's say, performance marketing, and just get them engaged. And this is what we want to do. So that's what ABM is. And that's also, I'm just grouping that into demand gen here. Right, so let's just go into how to decide what to pick and when, right? So there's 3 questions you need to ask for this. 1, which game are you playing? 2, how aware is the market about the solution that you're providing? And 3, what is your company's mix, right? Is it completely sales assisted? Is it completely self-serve, or is there a percentage between the two? Let me elaborate, right? Which game are you playing basically means that, hey, are you capturing existing market? Meaning, and this is where most companies are, right? There is a market of people who know about the product or would use something like this. So are you in the game of capturing this same market share? And here you're, let's say, competing against your other competitors. Or are you in the game of expanding the market? And then the people who now weren't, or people who weren't earlier using your product or your service, right? Are you trying to educate them into using your offering? Or are you trying to capture people who are already educated in them, right? So obviously the expansion market is the more difficult one. And the capturing or the more expensive one in most cases. If you're capturing the market, again, it's usually more, it's usually less expensive, but then you also keep losing a lot of customers, and it's harder to build trust and a lot of those things, right? The second one is the market awareness, right? So how aware is your market about your industry in general, right? For example, let's say if a market is more aware, right? For example, let's take our example, right? B2B SaaS, we're a B2B SaaS marketing agency. You know what a marketing agency does. All of your competitors know what a marketing agency does. So now if we as a marketing agency come to you and say that, hey, you know what we do as a performance marketing agency, we start running ads and we manage ads and we write ad copy, and you'll just sleep, right? So no one wants to know that. So again, how aware is your market? Basically, right? And and how much do you need to educate them? That dictates the channels, that dictates your messaging strategy, and a lot of other things. The third thing that you're looking at is, hey, the sales assisted and self-serve. I think I've already covered enough of that. But then, based on that, for example, it's mostly sales assisted. You might do a few different things, or you might set up the funnels differently, right? For example, even in demand capture, right? Let's say you're running Google ads. Now in your industry, if you have a sales assisted motion, but then there are also other competitors that sell to smaller companies, you might start seeing a lot of junk. So in that case, you might have to set up the funnel in a way that you are not wasting your sales times, and then that is then going to lead to a lot of problems between the sales and marketing team, which I guess we've all seen happen, right? So these are the 3 questions that you really need to understand well before you try and decide how to approach this, right? Now, in most cases, in 90% of the times, right, this is how I would go about it. The first thing I would do is max out demand capture. Yes, demand gen is more sexy, right? More people want to be doing it. It sounds like you're doing a lot more. It's more exciting, but demand capture is where the results are. We've done this multiple times. We are 100% sure that demand capture, if you can do it, if there is market awareness, there is demand, just the first thing you should do is capture it, right? Run your, and the easiest way to do this, again, like we've just discussed, right, just run a couple of, start with Google Ads, try G2, try Capterra, right? So there's a lot of others such the software suggestions, there's a lot of other such places you can start, but start with demand capture. The cost per conversion, the cost per call schedule or free trial is going to be much lower. And if you're doing demand gen but you're not capturing it, there's a lot of money that you're wasting on anything else. Now, what do you do second? For most companies is one of the 3. It's either demand gen, which is the most common one. It could be lead nurture, it could be upsell. Now, based on the company, you would have to decide that, hey, should I go with demand gen, meaning that, or let's just start with lead nurture and upsell, right? So do I have enough people in the pipeline, or are my sales cycles really long, right? In which case, and do I think that them repeatedly seeing messages and building case studies and building proof and building confidence amongst them during the sales cycle, is that going to really impact the conversion rates, the sales conversion rates, and even bring in more revenue, right? And then that's when you should say that, okay, you know what, I can actually consider lead nurturing. Then there is an upsell opportunity, right? With upsell, basically, if you are PLG, you should definitely consider this when you're considering moving away from demand capture, right? That, hey, yes, my customer success team can do it. Yes, my product team can do the upsell bits, right? Yes, I can use email for it. Is using performance marketing or ads also going to be beneficial for us is something you should definitely consider. And then there's obviously demand gen, that, hey, do we have a list of companies that we want to target with demand gen and generate demand in to then build trust and then, capture this. And usually you do demand gen for larger size companies, for the higher ticket sizes, right? So for 90% of the cases, if you're doing demand gen, you are doing this for companies in your ICP that have a larger ticket size. That's where it's the most profitable. It takes about 3 months to build that entire motion in and start seeing results. And the absolute last thing that, again, I strongly believe you should do is brand awareness generation. Because whenever you do, as we said, right, you do anything in marketing, brand awareness is being built, right? So leave brand awareness out of performance marketing till you have done the rest, right? And then once you've sort of said that, hey, we have a good hold on the other 4 parts, that's when I would say that, hey, go ahead and do brand awareness generation, right? And so this is basically the thought process you should do. Again, I'm generalizing to make this useful as possible, but then yes, start with demand capture, right? Just look at, okay, can we do demand capture? Is there enough demand in the market to capture it? If yes, great, start there. If no, great, should we do lead nurture, upsell, or demand gen? Most companies after that go with demand gen, right? Now, once you've sort of done that, then instead of going to the next one, instead of sort of going from demand gen to somewhere else, just maybe look at, hey, can we do lead nurture or upsell now? Or can we do this? And then ask these questions. And then once you've sort of maxed all of this out, then you can even consider going with brand awareness generation. And this is what most of the largest companies do. Now, obviously, this was a 30,000 foot overview, or just like a bird's eye view of looking at, hey, what are the different things that I should be looking at. We're going to add a link to a template that we have on how to do or how we do budgeting for other companies in this video. Apart from that, there's also a link to exactly what does demand gen look like. If you are doing, let's say, targeting 10,000 companies, or when you're targeting only, let's say, a couple of companies, but you have spent a lot on intent, first, second, third party intent data, right? So there's going to be links to those things in the description. Let me know if this was helpful. And if you have any questions, just drop them here, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll answer them. Thank you.